Hello, everyone. We are back on the Orange Visuals podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, Marc Rice. Marc, thank you for coming on. He's a realtor that is specifically focusing on how to be able to be focused on investors, an investor-friendly realtor. Marc, thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Appreciate this time and I'm excited.
Yeah, Marc specializes specifically in investment property, and he is the co-owner of REAFCO. And Marc, we are excited today, I guess, to kind of share your story, hear a little bit about how have you been able to develop this career path, and it's something that you have been very, very successful in.
Absolutely. Yeah. Excited to share this conversation.
Yeah, so can you tell me a little bit about you in high school? Because you kind of had a different career path in mind before then. You still were looking to be an entrepreneur, but you told me before this podcast you were thinking of going into Big Four, consulting work.
Yeah, I mean in high school, so I grew up in South Coast, Massachusetts, which is a little kind of beach town by like Providence, Rhode Island, hour 15 south of Boston. So grew up in just a small high school, 160 kids graduating class, played a lot of sports there. Um I think in high school, I was always just doing a little bit of like side hustle, small business endeavors as well, just staying busy, trying different things. And when I was applying to colleges, I originally applied for computer science and then last minute switched to business schools. Was looking at big public schools. So that's where Ohio State was top on the list. I also applied to a couple other Big Ten schools as well as just big business schools, and then eventually landed on Ohio State for no other reason than it was like a very top rated business school at the time. They gave me a good out of state scholarship. This was the farthest west I'd ever been at the time, too, coming
Oh,
through Ohio. So just growing up on the East Coast, never really ventured out of New England or Florida. So yeah, it was a good journey out here to Ohio State, and
mm.
super grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah. How'd you get started with real estate? Especially you told me a little bit about it, how you were able to find a mentor and you kind of started helping him out. How did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, real estate was not on my radar until like end of junior year. So I didn't even know Ohio State had a real estate major. I originally came into Ohio State studying operations, then didn't really want to do operations, so I switched to finance because it was like the hardest degree to switch into. My
Mhm.
GPA was still pretty high, so I was like, okay, I'll switch into this as a placeholder. Eventually, going into like junior year, I realized I didn't really want to go the corporate route. I had a lot of friends around me who were, and were doing it very successfully. It just didn't seem to fit my long-term goals. And I had always been interested in entrepreneurship, like tech, just various businesses, like the creative freedom that you have within that space. So I actually ended up switching, ironically, into accounting my junior year because I knew I never wanted to get like a job. And
Mhm.
I knew that this would be a pretty good major for me to go out into the world and like survive in the business world. Um, so pretty much junior year, the end of junior year, I started listening some podcasts, one of them being like Bigger Pockets, as well
Mhm.
as some other YouTube channels, and just discovered real estate as a career, as an entrepreneurial journey. Um, and that's what really started getting me interested in the space is just through poking around on YouTube and different podcasts my end of junior year at Ohio State, 2018.
Yeah, and then you kind of were able to go and meet someone, then you started cold calling for them? Can you tell me a little bit about how that whole process worked out?
Yeah, so one of my good friends, who's actually now my client, we were in a co-ed business fraternity together, great organization at Ohio State. Um, we played basketball a lot together, and that he was a senior graduating, and we played basketball. I was a upcoming senior, and I knew he was working a real estate internship with this local investor here in Columbus. Didn't know anything about it other than that he was doing real estate and I was interested in it. And I was like, "Hey, like you're the only person I really know who's doing real estate. Like, can I meet your mentor and maybe like take over your position?" He's like, "Yeah, like I'll introduce you." Went over to this guy's house who I didn't know at the time. It was literally just in his dining room. Um, Pulled out like a resume because at Ohio State, it's like, "Bring a resume." So I bring a resume, hand it to him. He doesn't even look at it, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I had a t-shirt company." He's like, "Oh, t-shirt company." Like, I had a t-shirt company, and, like, that's pretty sure all he looked at on that resume was, like,
Mhm.
t-shirt company. Um, and we just hit it off from right then and there. He was at the time buying a lot of, like 1 to 10 units around Ohio State University, around Southern Orchards. Um, and I pretty much approached him like, "Hey, I just want to learn. I don't really care about like what the pay structure is or like how much I'm going to make. I just want to learn." And
Mhm.
he's like, "Great. Like what you can do is you can start cold calling on properties." And that's pretty much where we started out, where I started out working with him was just purely cold calling on properties manually on my phone from
Mhm.
his living room or from like the laundry room in like one of the random dorms on Ohio State campus when I had time. So
Yeah. How was that? Because usually people aren't the biggest fan of cold calling. Like for you starting out, especially because you're not really getting a paycheck from this. You already
yeah.
said. How were you motivated? Like, hey, I'm gonna continue doing this.
Yeah, it was funny in the start. I didn't even like I don't think we even had a pay structure either. So we just like got right into it. He had a list and I just started calling it. It was funny. Like the first call I ever did was like with my mentor and it was like completely awful. He had a script and I'm just trying to read the script but also like mentally trying to talk to this person on the phone and I'm like, "Wait a minute, like the script doesn't really match what I would be saying." So it was a very big disconnect and that's quickly where I realized like on the phone you got to be yourself and you got to like have your own script.
Mhm.
Um but yeah, I didn't know anything else other than this was the opportunity in front of me and this 30-year-old at the time owns like 50 plus rentals, walks around with flip-flops all the time
Mhm.
and doesn't have a job, and I was like, "That's cool, like, I don't wanna have a job, and I wanna wear flip-flops." So, I just started working with him cold calling and didn't
Mhm.
know what else was normal, so I just did it.
How long did it take until you got your first success?
I think our first deal I closed so I started probably in August of 2018, my senior year. I wanna say we closed our first deal probably it had to be within, like, 4 to 6 months. I think it was, like, 4 months or so. I was very lucky. He had a couple warm leads that were already, like, in the pipeline, and he gave me, like, a warm prior lead list, and I called one of them and got that closed as the first one. I think I made $300, which doesn't pay the bills, but I was like, "This is sweet." Saw an entire beat up property from being down to the studs all the way to the finished fix and flip product, so that was cool overall.
Mhm.
But that was the first one I did, and then I probably did another deal after that, probably, um, it's probably the following year, and I wanna say, like, January or February, we did another 4-unit deal as well off market,
Mm.
through cold calling, and that was just through, like, ripping dials manually, Google Voice on a spreadsheet. Um
Yeah. Sheesh. Yeah, no, that sounds tough. Like, that is really good.
And there's still people from that list of cold calling back then that I still follow up with. Like I've closed deals from those original days of cold calling in a laundry room, like in a dorm, because that's the only quiet space you can find. Like I've closed deals like every year just by following up with those people from 5, 6 years ago. Like I literally just like ironically just signed a contract this morning at like 8 a.m.
Mhm.
from a seller that I've been talking to since 2019.
Yeah,
And that's just literally from following up with people and
consistently.
consistently. It's like, "Hey, like, I'm here, I'm 27," back then I was whatever, 21. So I was like, "I'm just here, I'm not going anywhere, but when you're ready to sell, I'm here." And it's just those long-term follow-ups that are super key.
Yeah, and it's just following up without I guess one thing how I guess we'll jump a little bit into REAFCO. How do you teach your agents specifically, "Hey, like, follow up with these guys, but don't come off as too pushy," or should they be coming off as or should they be pushing them for the sale if it makes sense? How do you advise them for that?
Yeah, I think a lot of, like, sales, I mean, I think the best guys and gals, I think, a lot of it's, like, mindset first, like, just having a good attitude and, like, understanding it's a long-term game. I think some agents who Like, some agents who think too short term and they're just gonna blast them, like, nonstop until they sell and brute force it, like, those don't always work.
Mhm.
You gotta feel the situation. So in short, every situation is a little bit different, every seller is a little bit different, But a lot of times I find with these sellers is that they're talking to multiple people. They want to sell the property. They're either going to sell it to you or somebody else. Like there's
Mhm.
tons of unlicensed wholesalers in Columbus calling. There's a ton of unlicensed wholesalers in other states calling Columbus. There's a ton of out of state investors calling Columbus. Like it is competitive,
Mhm.
even for a small city. So like you always have to assume that someone is calling that seller, and if you don't close them, someone else is going to close them.
Mhm.
So I think framing that in their mindset is super key. And then generally the rest follows pretty naturally. Like, you'll call them, try to build a relationship,
Mhm.
really leaning on like, hey, I'm local, I'm XYZ age, like this is my name, this is my story, like this is why you should work with me and not some other random person cold calling or cold texting you. Um yeah, every case is a little bit different, but I think just the mindset of like they're gonna sell and I'm local, I'm trustworthy, like let's get this done with them, I
Mhm.
think is just super key.
Yeah. And then how did you get into property management with your mentor?
Yeah, so starting out when I was cold calling with my mentor back in 2018, so they call it September 2018 or so. At the time, he had a couple Airbnbs that he was self-managing. And once again, I'm young, have no money, and I'm like, hey, I just want to learn. He's like, hey, I have like, these two Airbnbs. Like, would you want to manage them? And I'm like, I don't know how to manage them. I don't even know what that even means, but like I know how to go on youtube.com. So sure, I'll manage them. Um, Figured out how to hire cleaners, hire maintenance people, figured out some like the software for pricing and delegation, all through watching YouTube and started managing his two Airbnbs at the time in call like fall of 2018.
Mhm. And now that's from what I've seen now, that's become a really successful part of your business as well.
Yeah, so it started out with just managing his units and then as I essentially transitioned into getting my real estate license, while I was going along that journey, like more and more opportunities for short-term rental management kept coming my way. And at the time, I just wanted to do real estate and I kept saying yes, yes, yes. And eventually that became its own company called Tailwind Short-Term Rentals. Um, it focuses on studios and one beds in Columbus, Ohio to provide high quality stays for people. Um, we're doing a lot of some midterm stays and some like 1 to 3 night stays too. But it basically kind of came by accident, just saying yes to opportunity. Um, and while that tail and short-term rentals was growing, I was also got my real estate license, kept all these leads that I had from the acquisitions pipeline of cold calling. Like I had all these sellers.
Mhm.
And at the time I had one buyer, which was my mentor. So through joining REAFCO and linking up with like Remington and whatnot, that's where I was able to basically connect those sellers to my now new buyers where I was representing them as their buyer's agent. Um, and yeah, and we could talk about how like in mid
Yeah.
2019, like how REAFCO kind of started and whatnot.
I was gonna ask
Um,
that, like, what was the transition from college to
yeah, so I guess essentially going from so fall 2018, I'm now a senior thing, doing a lot of credits, like just to graduate on time, do like 21 credits. I think they like charged me extra to do 21 credits too, because I could have only done 18. But I was just trying to get done with college on time. Um, so it was cold calling in the laundry rooms. I was managing a couple Airbnbs and taking a lot of credits to graduate on time. Finally, well, throughout that time too, like all my friends and whatnot, and peers are all committing to job offers and whatnot. I was going through some job interviews at the time because just you kind of get wrapped up in that
Mhm.
tsunami as a college student. And then approaching like March of 2019, the last couple months of my senior year, I'm really just talking with my mentor and like reflecting with him of like, hey, like, what are you gonna do when you graduate? And I'm like, I have all these job offers in Boston for Big Four consulting. You're gonna make 60,000 a year, but work like 60 hours a week. And, you do that for 3 years, you get XYZ associate position, and you do that another 5 years. And it just seemed like there was no clear end to that, like that
Mhm.
game, that like elevator. Um, there was nothing on the end of that journey that would lead me to like the desired lifestyle that I wanted to live. So talking to my mentor, he's like, "Hey, like you're already managing these Airbnbs, like you're making probably 500 $1,000 a month. Um, acquisitions, yeah, you may close like you're closing probably 2 or 3 of these deals a year. Maybe that's an extra like $10,000 a year." At the time, which we didn't even discuss, I was also doing some side social media management.
Oh,
So,
actually?
so I knew how to do basically there were some softwares that I could provide to local small businesses to help them grow their social media presence, like on Instagram. So I was making probably another $500 a month doing that. I had like maybe 2 or 3 clients paying me 200-300 bucks a month. So here I am, about to graduate college, looking at 60K a year salary, go back to Boston, which I'm an hour from Boston. I don't even know Boston. Don't even know how the train or all that stuff works. Or I can stay in Columbus and have a clear path to buy real estate like soon
Mhm,
while making like $1,000 a month today. And I was like, you know what? I can always get a job in the future if I want. Like I have an accounting degree from Ohio State University. Like
mhm,
I can probably find a job. And a lot of that came from just talking to my mentor and him and I like coming to that realization, like, you know what, like you're fine, like just try it.
mhm,
Like, what's the worst that can happen? So that's when May 2019 just said, nope, not getting a job. Um, that's when my mentor Jeff uh was working with him at the time. Then Remington had approached Jeff actually through cold calling him on one of his properties to buy.
mhm,
Remington's like, hey Jeff, I just bought a duplex or a 4 unit. Like I want to buy more. I want to learn. I want to start a property management company. Jeff's like, I don't want to sell my properties, but I'm happy to meet with you and help you if I can. And Remington, Jeff were talking, and Remington basically was like, hey, I want to do a property management company. At the time, I'm still cold calling, doing my Airbnb things, kind of floating in limbo. And Jeff's like, hey, like, you know, Mark's young, hungry, like he's doing this as well on the acquisition side. He's doing management as well. Like, why don't you guys like join forces and build this property manager company? And I'm like, sweet. He's young, hungry. Like, cool. Like, let's do it. So like May comes around, May 2019. We start just managing my mentor, like our mentor Jeff's properties. He had like 40 or 50 at the time. We have no idea what we're doing. We're using like Rent Tech Direct software, which if anybody knows that, it's like 1995 software, like super antiquated. Everyone now uses Appfolium or Billium. So we're using like some pretty not good software, trying to make a bunch of SOPs, standard operating procedures, trying to
mhm,
build out this big company, going to like these meetup events. But yeah, we manage property and like we're managing 40, 50. Everyone's like, what's your fees? Like, and we're just like telling them what our fees are. And we realize it's not really going anywhere other than like we're managing our mentors' properties, like 40, 50, like making pennies because we're charging discounted services because he kind of put us on. Um, and then that whole summer too, like I was cold calling, doing acquisitions as well as working with Remington on the management side of things. Um, and actually like, found my first off market triplex at the time, and I think I found a lead probably in like July of 2019 while working with Remington. I had no money, was not loanable. Well, I had $5,000 to my name. I wasn't loanable, but one of my good friends from Ohio State University was loanable. I was like, "Hey, man, like I have this deal. Like, I want to buy it. Like, I trust you. You trust me. Like, we've talked about entrepreneurship in the past. Like, can we use your loan to qualify or your income, W-2 income to qualify for the loan? Let's put 5% down." It was a triplex, so duplex in the front, carriage house in the back. I was like, let's move into the back. We'll fix it up. We'll fix up the front two too. Rent the front two out. We'll live in the back for free. And let's do it. He's like, I'm all in because he was in Columbus. Most people had moved away and like we're good buddies. And he's like, yeah, like let's do it. So like just purely through cold calling, found that first deal as well. Um, so moving the triplex, and at the same time, Remington and I were getting the property management going. And then probably end of July, I think going into August actually as well. Right after I closed on that, our mentor came to us and he's like, "Hey, like actually, I want to self-manage these properties again.
mm,
Um, I just want to take them back and self-manage them." And Remington and I are like, "Well, we don't have any clients, so." at the time, I already had a couple Airbnb clients that I was still doing. I had like a very bleak acquisitions pipeline, but I had a triplex at the time, living for
Mhm.
free. So like, hey, listen, man, like I don't like this property management thing isn't really like scratching my itch. Like I think I'm gonna just like keep doing the Airbnb stuff and like keep trying to buy some long term rentals. And he's like, "Hey, like, I think I'm gonna be a realtor." And I was like, "What is a realtor?" Like, I don't wanna be, like, in the suburbs, like, opening up, like, single family houses. Like, I don't even know what that means. Our mentor at the time had his broker license, but he was, like, not a public facing realtor at all. Like, you wouldn't even know he was a realtor. So I just didn't understand his playbook. And I'm like, "Listen, man, like, I'm gonna go just do my Airbnb thing. Like, if some acquisitions deals come up in the future, like, let's buy them together or whatnot, but I'm gonna keep doing Airbnb. You know, you figure out this whole realtor thing, like, have fun showing homes. Like, I don't know what that is. See ya." So we kinda, like, parted ways a little bit there in, September 2019. At the time, I didn't have my real estate license either. I had no reason to have it. Our I guess Jeff, he had his broker's license, so we were running everything under him. But we were sitting for our tests. So pretty much September 2019 comes around. The whole rest of that year, I continue to do Airbnb management, continue to do acquisitions. I think I may close like one or two more deals like with my mentor Jeff throughout that period. And the whole time I'm kind of staying in touch with Remington. He started working with one or two of my buddies at the time. Like one of our good buddies, Brandon, now is working with him. So like, I kind of knew vaguely what was going on over there, but like didn't really know the success they were truly having. And then come January 2020, my best friend from high school, Evan, so Evan Winterhalter, he had just graduated from North Carolina State. Um, and kind of prior to that, we had this grand idea to sell like t-shirts out of a van basically up and down the East Coast because I had a Atlantic Apparel t-shirt company I started in like a sophomore year of college, and that kind of had I'd done that a couple summers throughout my college career. But towards the end of my senior year, I kind of realized like t-shirts weren't it. It was a medium to we use t-shirts as a medium to get people into the outdoors and explore cool things on the East Coast. But basically, he was graduating in January 2020 from North Carolina State. And I was like, hey, listen, man, like, I don't think this t-shirt thing is like really the industry we want to go into. Um, but this real estate thing is super great. Like, if we spend a lot of time working in real estate here, I think we can use this as like a financial foundation to then go in and basically connect people to the outdoors in nature through like just through different means, like whether it be like through technology or through a t-shirt company. I didn't have to worry so much about the money or through like just Airbnbs in the outdoors. So he's like, "Yeah, man, like I really do want to sell t-shirts, but like, I trust you. I'm with you. Like, let me move out to Columbus with you and help you with this Airbnb thing." Because we have, I think at a time we probably grew to like 25, 30 units from originally having two. It's like, hey, I need your help anyway. Um, so he moved out here January 2020 to really kind of professionalize tail and short term rentals. At the time, too, I started talking with Remington, who was having a lot of success basically at REAFCO, which originally was just him and Jeff, and then a couple other agents joined. So they're having a lot of success in January 2020, February 2020. Um, and this was like right before COVID. So like rates were still pretty low, but like things were very good. They had a good out of state investor niche.
Mhm.
We're closing a lot of deals, coming across a lot of deals. And I was like, "Hey, Evan, like, you know, I'm so like, I'm gonna work on tail and short term rentals as well, but I'm gonna get my real estate license and I'm gonna like really double down on this acquisition side of real estate. And I'm gonna like put my license at REAFCO, become an investor friendly agent there because a lot of those clients need Airbnb management services. So through being a realtor, I'm gonna find deals, help people buy deals. So I'm gonna have another source of income and have a deal source coming in. But also this is gonna help grow our Airbnb company." And he's like, "Great, like, let's do it." And at the time he had moved back into our little shack in the back of of
Mhm.
Muller Street in Merriam Village, which was a 2-bed, 2-bath, and we had living with 4 guys at the time. Actually, it was me, my buddy Alex, we co-owned the house. Evan moved into one of the living rooms, and then my other buddy Ty from college as well. He was paying us $200 a month to live in basically the other living room. It's
Mhm.
like 4 guys living in this 2-bed, 2-bath house. Long story short, just trying to figure it out. Like I'm just like real estate, yes. I'm gonna keep saying yes. And essentially got my real estate license finally February 2020,
Mm.
and then COVID hits like right before the Arnold Sports Festival, our biggest Airbnb weekend of the year. Like literally 2 days before, it's like breaking news, COVID here,
Mhm.
and Evan and I are sitting in our living room. We're like, what the heck is this? Like, what is COVID? What like this can't be real. Like they're not shutting stuff down. And like a day later, they're like Arnold Sports Festival canceled, and we're like, oh, what the hell is going on? Like this is real. And we have probably it's on like 50 units, like 50 guests just canceling, asking for refunds and whatnot. We're just kind of scrambling to like make everyone whole and work with Airbnb support to get them refunded. Um, and this whole time, like I'm just starting out as like a full-time real estate investor friendly agent. So, that's kind of how I officially got into REAFCO as an investor friendly agent. Was pretty much in that first 12 months of REAFCO.
Mhm.
Um, and the rest has really been history of growing the Airbnb management company, which probably takes about like 20% of my week. And the other 80% of my week is full-time investor friendly agent. I have my
Mhm.
broker's license, manage a team of about 12 agents on my team at REAFCO. Um,
Mhm.
help them find deals, help them broker deals, help them grow their business, and really just work with a great group of hungry, mostly young individuals to grow their real estate portfolios and help other clients out along their journey.
Yeah, how did you survive that time in COVID with Airbnbs just getting canceled left and right?
Yeah, I think we had to get very like scrappy and figure out where was it a man? Like, where did people wanna stay? I think a lot of that came from, like, operationally, like, doubling down on, like, cleaning procedures and, like, making sure our cleaning processes were guest friendly and Airbnb friendly so that when people booked, they felt safe, but a lot of it was shifting over to, like, 30 plus day stays, and, posting stuff on different platforms, like long-term rental platforms of just, "Hey, we have furnished units, like, you can stay here for a month, like, for very cheap, just, like, and this is a good COVID getaway or whatnot, um, but, like, we have units, we're gonna charge them basically at break even and, like, come stay in our units, and we're gonna make sure it's clean very, very professionally for you."
Mhm.
Um, and, like, any lead that came in, you just had to, like you had to be very good about, making sure they convert into a booking and making sure they're happy and they don't want to cancel. So I think it just became like survival mode of like we got vacancy, we got to fill them. It was a great learning experience, and I think we did a great job. Um, but yeah, definitely like pretty crazy 12 to 18 months just when COVID was hitting of just no one really knew what was happening, when it was going to end. And as a real estate agent, it was a whole different it was almost the opposite. It
Yeah, in a
was
good way.
it was like the best time ever from the sense of like low interest rates, high demand, people sitting at home on Zillow with nothing to do. Everyone wants to be the next XYZ real estate developer investor. So it was great from a real estate agent standpoint if you're willing to hit the streets and get out there and like make deals happen in a safe manner. Um, but yeah, that'd be
Mhm.
interesting.
How did you transition from primarily selling real estate, helping investors and sellers to managing teams? Especially because, I mean, Reefco has a lot of agents. 30 agents is a decent amount. How has it changed, I guess, especially with help making sure that they're developing, that they're producing as well, and then you got your own things to deal about your own business?
Yeah, I'd say in managing teams, I'd say it's more like we're supporting entrepreneurs. Like that's what REAFCO is. Like we are giving people a playbook and a foundation to come in and be successful entrepreneurs in running their own real estate business. Like I'm not telling someone, "Hey, you got to cold call XYZ. You got to do these lists. You got to show up at this hours." Like I'm not doing that. I'm not managing the team sort of sense from that. I am giving them the tips, tricks, skills, strategies so that they can run a very successful real estate business. So the nice thing is they want to show up. If they don't close any deals, they don't make any money. So like
Mhm.
we have very much aligned incentives. And they want to show up and they want to succeed. And that's it's very easy to coach someone who wants to be coached and who wants to succeed. I think it's hard to manage a team when they don't want the same outcome as you and you're kind of dragging them along. So I'd say it's actually very easy.
Oh, really?
We just find great talent who have a great mindset, who want to grow, and who realize if you put the hard work in now and you make sacrifices, like it is going to be way easier 5, 10 years down the road that you probably don't have to work again because you can live off of like the equity from your real estate, the cash flow. Um, so I think the hardest thing is finding talented people who are willing to bet on themselves and essentially burn the boats and go all in as a full-time real estate agent and investor.
Mm.
Um, but once you have the right people, like it's pretty easy to call it manage the team. Like they really they run themselves. We're supporting their business.
Mhm. I guess one of the main things is I've noticed you guys do a lot of Ohio State. You guys recruit a lot of your realtors from there. And how do you, I like that phrase you said, burn the boats. How do you encourage them to do that? Especially when it's, hey, like maybe I have a job offer, like it was for you. Like they have a job offer in Boston, New York City, wherever it may be. Maybe they don't have a real estate mentor yet. They don't have like that experience. They don't have that like proof of, hey, this is what can happen. How do you guys help them and I guess encourage them to jump on board?
Yeah, I'd say it's actually pretty hard to recruit Ohio State students to come on full time. I think for internship opportunities, it's fairly easy. It's like, hey, like I need an internship. Great. I'm interested in real estate. Great.
Mhm.
The thing with Ohio State is the culture at Ohio State and a lot of the student organizations and ecosystem of Ohio State, it puts a lot of weight on big companies and high paying salaries in big cities and sexy positions. So you have a lot of students that there's a lot of peer pressure to go work at the biggest name companies and work in the hardest field like Wall Street or consulting, like big three consulting. Um, Even like as an accounting major, like probably 90% of those kids go to work in big four accounting. Um, so it's actually very hard to recruit from Ohio State because they have so many other opportunities because they're so talented. And they have a lot of peer pressure from not only their student peers, but also the faculty members who are trying to like encourage them to go work for these big companies. Cause also, um, like, when you fill out a survey at the end, when you graduate Ohio State and you have to check off, do you have a job?
Mm.
It's like job placement. Like that's a key statistic that's why people go to like Ohio State because they're guaranteed to get a good job. Um, so what we do is almost like the opposite of like the 9 to 5 traditional route. So it's very hard. I think it's almost easier to take someone off the street who like didn't go to college. This is a good work ethic and be like, hey, like if you work very hard and follow this playbook, you will be monetarily successful. I think it's almost easier with that because they don't know anything else. But when you go to these bigger colleges, students have so many opportunities.
It's
And
overwhelming.
yeah, it's overwhelming and it's harder to help them see through like the weeds and like the smoke and mirrors of like kind of the corporate world
Mhm.
versus like, hey, you know, take a lot of short-term pain to reap a lot of long-term benefits as a full-time like real estate agent and investor.
Yeah.
So
One of the things you mentioned is your guys' playbook. And I guess I want to ask, how do you guys develop that? Is that more of the advice of mentors, and then along with the experiences of you in Remington? How have you guys changed that over the years? Kind of seen, hey, like this is what works. Maybe like you guys included something that was a mistake, and then how do you decide like, wait, I'm gonna take that out, I'm gonna replace it with this process.
yeah, I think the playbook is, and it's used loosely. I think it's a overall like strategy. And it's constantly evolving as we meet new mentors and get different feedback from clients. A lot of it's market driven too. Especially during COVID, like interest rates were very low and prices were very high on the coastal markets like California, New England, Pacific Northwest, Texas, Florida, even. Um, so we had a lot of out of state investors who wanted to invest in a more cash flow friendly market, in a cheaper price point market. And that is where Columbus, Cleveland, Dayton, Cincinnati became like attractive markets for these out of state investors. So we've really carved out our niche, primarily selling 1 to 4 unit investment properties, but also 5 to 20 unit investment properties to everyday people, to or people maybe they're raising a small amount of money. But probably 99% of the people we sell to, like it's just from their personal savings, from their W-2 job, or from their 401k, and they just want to buy real estate as a investment strategy so they don't have to work forever, and they want to diversify their portfolios. So um that's kind of our target audience. We'll also work a lot with local house hack buyers where they're buying a duplex, living in one half, renting the other half, or they're buying a 4 unit, living in one, renting the other one, or getting a single family, living in one bedroom, renting the other ones out. So we kind of do those two main types of clients. Some fix and flippers too, but a lot of them are out of state, some are local, and then really what REAFCO does very well is we just grind it out on the phones and just really hit the streets, in terms of like networking and letting people know like we're doing deals, like do a deal with REAFCO, and like we're here to do deals. Like we're not. I think REAFCO is one of the most inviting brokerages to do deals with, for not only other brokers but other wholesalers too. Just everybody. Like we try to preach a culture of like we want to do deals with everybody and anybody,
Mhm.
and let's do this collaboratively, and everyone's going to make money. Columbus overall is going to benefit. Um, so and that's why we go to so many networking events, is to tell people like, hey, let's do deals. Like
Mhm.
we're cool, approachable people. We think and we hope. And like let's do some deals and let's have fun along the way. Um, but we try not to like be, bullies on the streets, or like
Yeah.
or close doors and not tell like tips and tricks. Like we're very inviting. Like if anyone wants to come in, like we'll show them kind of like what we do and whatnot, and like give them a little bit of a background, like our story. Yeah, we're very inviting and very collaborative doing deals.
Mhm. What would you say to people that, I guess, watch like, they're probably on Instagram, they, like, like, look through some reels, and it's like, "Hey, real estate investor, like, they did this, and this is their cash flow. This is, like, what they're making off of the property," and they're like, "Oh, that looks so easy." What would be your, I guess, thoughts for them?
Yeah, I think this generation, and probably due to social media, like it's a very I think there's a lot of like I think some things get oversimplified, but I think real estate is very simple. But I think real estate is not a get rich quick; it's a get rich very slow game. I think a lot of the content on social media and YouTube is phenomenal. Like it dumbs it down and it makes it very simple and attainable. And I think the people who do the best are those who just like get started and learn along the way. And every deal they keep doing, they get a little bit better. Um, the clients that I find never buy property, and essentially, they wish they bought property 10 years ago. It's the ones who plug everything into their little spreadsheet, and if the magic number doesn't spit out, they don't buy it, and that's just not real estate. Uh, like if I did that, I would not own nearly as many doors as I do. Like there'd be dozens of deals I would not have bought just because this magic number doesn't pop out of the spreadsheet. So I'd say YouTube, social media, it's great. There's a ton of great content creators out there sharing their tips and tricks and their mistakes, which is super key. So you can absolutely learn from that. I think it's going to give you like little bits and pieces to take from each content creator. Ultimately, as an investor, you gotta you know you gotta bite the bullet and do it. Like at some point, you just have to do it.
Mhm.
Um, and thankfully, house hack loans on 1 to 4 unit, putting 0 to 3 to 5% down is like the best, easiest, low risk way to do it. Um, and you're not gonna be a millionaire on that first deal, but you're gonna get started. You're gonna get confident. You're gonna make mistakes, but you have very low skin. You have very low cash down,
Mhm.
and it's a great way to learn. And that's where I think most of the agents at REAFCO started out with their first deal.
What's, like, the most common first-time mistake you see investors do?
First time mistake. I'd say, I mean, there's some. I think chasing cash flow, I think, can be a slippery slope, because you can buy a property in an F class area in like Detroit. Not to knock Detroit, it's on the up and up. It's a great city, but you can buy an F class property in like Detroit or like in a rough spot in Cleveland, and the cash flow looks great in your little magical spreadsheet. And then you go to and you buy it and you close on it, and then you realize like, oh crap, the tenants may be moving out, the property manager's doing a horrible job, you can't collect your rent. You're in this eviction cycle after eviction cycle. Every time you put in $5,000 to turn the unit, the tenant moves out 6 to 12 months later, trashes the place, another $5,000 down. And you're in this C class, D class, F class tornado of never really cash flowing. But you bought that because your little special spreadsheet said you're going to make a 10% cash on cash or a 8% ROI. Um, versus I think buying in like good areas where you can attract very good tenants and leaving a little bit of rent on the table. So don't charge if market rent in your rentometer says 2,000 a month, charge maybe 17.95 a month. Leave a little money on the table and get a lot of applicants and follow fair housing and choose a qualified applicant. Um, generally I find you're going to have less vacancy, you're going to get better tenants who want to renew if you're not charging like top market rent. Like just leave it, like be fair, like leave a little money on the table, get a lot of good applicants, and they're gonna want to renew and take care of them. Like be a good landlord, don't be a slumlord.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I think one of the common big mistakes is just chasing cash flow and forgetting like the bigger picture of real estate, which really is your debt pay down and as your debt gets paid down from your tenant paying rent, your equity grows quite exponentially actually.
Mm.
So, you know, year 1, you're probably paying 20%, your monthly mortgage, 20% of that is going to your principal. But in year 5, 6, 7, it may be like 30, 31%, 32%. So it gets better every year. Um, and owning in those better areas
Mhm.
tends to be less volatile in it allows you to actually hold that property longer, so you can actually start to see those benefits of that, debt pay down and your equity growth.
Mhm. That's actually really, really good. That's interesting, especially with the long-term growth, where you're leaving money on the table, but it's opening up the door for long-term successful growth. When have you actually sold any of your properties yet, or have you been holding consistently?
I have not sold I sold one property once because it actually had a fire, and this is another story. I had a fire. This is the first property I ever bought for cash for like $60,000. And it caught on fire, and we actually didn't have our insurance policy activated. We were going back and forth with the insurance agent. Long story short, the policy never got activated. Um, had a big fire in the property because the neighbors were pissed off at the tenant who was living in there. And like, hey, if we burn the house down, he's not coming back. Well, they were right. The tenant didn't come back, and we now had this like half burned down house. So we sold it at like a for like a 20K loss on that exact property. That was the only one I've ever sold.
Mhm. And then would you recommend for anyone to sell, or is it just wait until eventually the equity gets to a certain point?
Depends what your goals are. I mean, I think if you're in it for the long run, and most people I know who own A and B class, like they're not really selling. I think some C class investors, if they are stuck with a lot of like bad tenants and a constant tornado of the C class cycle, like they tend to sell most. I think the 1031 tax deferred exchange is a great strategy to sell and trade up. So like I know a lot of people who will buy in C class because they're getting a good deal. They're buying at below market value. They can force a lot of appreciation through fixing it up and getting rents up. But like they realize it's a pain in the ass to manage there. So what they'll actually do is they'll then 1031 and trade up to a more expensive, nicer class property. So I see a lot of people do that. And that's probably that's probably where I would lean on the when do I sell approach because I'm 27. I don't have any reason to sell right now.
Yeah, I was gonna ask actually, what are your goals? Because you talk a lot about the goals that an investor has and your agents have, and, I was looking through your resume, and you've gotten pretty successful from this, especially I was gonna ask about the compounding of how you've been able to earn, especially with all the properties, the successful company. What is the goal now?
Yeah, I mean, goal. I mean, it's like goal. I mean, there's
or goals,
Yeah,
I guess.
it's like and there's a lot of goals, there's professional goals, there's personal goals as well. Um, I think goals for REAFCO is to keep growing and keep helping other individuals build out their investment portfolio so they can have financial freedom. Really educating the world on how to, everyday investors can invest in real estate and be good landlords for their community to as well on the way they're going to build financial freedom. I think personally, like, I own 50 plus rentals. I'm very blessed. Um, I've used this financial freedom as a way to kickstart our outdoor glamping development in Asheville,
Mhm.
North Carolina. So my business partner and best friend from high school, he lives out there full time right now in Asheville. He's got a couple rentals out there too that he's house hacked. Um, but we'd use all of our profits from buying long-term rentals here and commissions from brokerage income to kickstart that development. So I think real estate is it's an infinite game. Like you can always have a bit, you can always keep getting more units. You can always get more cash flow. You can always build a bigger building. Um, but like there's no end game. Like it's just like playing basketball. Like
Yeah.
you can just there's always another layer. There's always another league to compete, another championship. So I think for me, it's really I've used real estate as like a way to help other everyday investors along the way, like build their financial freedom, and they help me monetarily out as well, like through making an active income source. But I'm now using the active income source plus our rental portfolio to do more creative endeavors like the glamping build that we're doing out in North Carolina.
Yeah.
We have big visions for that. We've kind of been we've been more slow than we probably would like on building it. Like we've owned it about 3 years now. 60 acres right off the Blue Ridge Parkway. You know, to pitch it out, it's outercamp.us on Instagram or outercamp.us is a website.
Yeah, we'll link it, but
Um, but we've just kickstarted that. Some small friends and family, private money raises. So shout out to all the people that have helped us along the way with that. But really it's trying to use the real estate financial freedom to build cool things. And I think one day we'll get into development here in Columbus and really build intentional buildings and communities. A lot of what Remington and I do right now is we're involved in Urban Land Institute, which plug for that too if you're, definitely get involved in the chapter in your local city. But we're connecting with all the biggest developers in Columbus, learning what do they do, like the architects, the developers, the lenders, the construction folks, the attorneys. We're understanding like what are they doing to build these communities. And like you and I, we're residents of this city. And I think you can go to development and see like, oh, like what does this do for the community? Is just another like 4-story walk-up apartment with, retail on the bottom, or is this like really activating the energy of the city? Um, so I think that's where I'm headed, and I think that's where a lot of us are headed at REAFCO, is that we're building up these investment portfolios that are going to be long-term legacy holds. But it's like, what do we do with that money? And I think it's going to be like developing cool community focused projects that actually make the world a better place.
mhm.
Because once you have a certain amount of money, like you're kind of set. It's like what like
Yeah.
just buy a bigger yacht. It's like some other dude has a bigger yacht than you. It's like, okay, it's just an infinite game. So I think yeah, I think it's just gonna be like continue to play the entrepreneurship game and like have fun along the way and
Mhm.
work with cool people. So
Has there been any struggles with glamping that you didn't expect?
I mean, yeah, I think the biggest thing is a different industry. Like it's new. I think the financing is in there, so you're getting people on board and educating them. Like this is glamping. Like this is what a non-permanent structure is. Like this is what some off-grid utilities look like. Like this is why it's better than like boutique hotels or other hotels. Like I think a lot of it's educating and kind of bringing the market along with you. I think demand is there. I think it's going to grow. I think if everyone at home, like you look at your screen time on your phone or how much like you're interacting with all these apps in computer screens and realizing how like you're not really bored anymore. I think like the outdoors is a great place for humans to like reconnect with what really matters in life. Um, and we're betting big time on that. Like we think that, just like people go to the gym sometimes several days a week, like we think people should be going to the outdoors like several days a week, if not several days a month. So I think we're really banking on there being a drastic need for people to like disconnect from like the everyday hustle and bustle, and just get outside with like people you love in nature and just like be present and like reflect, journal, like, you know, do like cold plunges, sauna, and just like really unplug and like be present in nature. I think the cold plunges and sauna, there's a way to like further strip away the layers of all like the chaos in your head and like the anxiety and whatnot. It's just a way to like really make yourself present. So what we're doing at Outer Camp is, yeah, it's giving people a place in nature to connect with people they love. Um, so yeah, that's where we're at with that. But yeah, challenges are it's like getting people to understand what the heck we're building and
Yeah.
getting them to like finance it as well as we're just learning too. It's our first one. So we're learning you know, you're basically building against nature, but while trying to build with nature. So it's an interesting harmony you're trying to balance.
Mhm.
But we're really building like private dwelling units in nature. Like we're not stacking them on each other like
Yeah.
some of the other companies or these campgrounds. Like we want you to have a private space like in nature with with some communal amenities that if you want to go interact with people you can. But we really want to give people like a private oasis retreat to just like get away from it all. And when you go there, you're not going to see your neighbors on your left and right. You're going to see nature around you. And if you want to go hang out with people in the common facilities, you can. We have a waterfall on our property.
Yeah, I saw it.
Build out like
Nice.
yeah, build a yoga deck and cold plunge and saunas and whatnot. So it's gonna be sweet. Right in Asheville, cool city. Really, really praying for them that they recover from the hurricane. Like it's pretty insane actually the damage down there, like the Biltmore Village area and just everywhere. Like it's serious the damage in Asheville. So
Mhm.
we're excited to be a part of that as a small business too and give people a reason to come to Asheville and like support the community. But also, like, we're excited to be able to, like, donate some of our funds along the way and some of our time and efforts, like, help in that
Mhm.
rebuilding process, so
Yeah, one thing I really like is you talk about all of these future plans that you have,
mm,
especially with the developments and the project in Asheville. And it's not just, hey, like we want to just go and get more money. And it's comes down to a mission of, hey, there's a reason why we're doing this besides, hey, we just want to enrich ourselves. How would you recommend for people to find their mission? Because a lot of people, especially younger people, they're lost. They don't really have something, hey, I'm going to go do this or I'm going to do this. What would you recommend for them?
yeah, I think you need to spend some time just being bored and reflecting on, like, what's important for you. I know we talked before, like, I think the road trip we did a 35-day road trip, going into my sophomore year of college, like, Evan and I, my business partner and best friend from high school, we did a 35-day road trip in a Ford Focus hatchback from Boston all the way out to California, up to like, Washington, Olympic National Park, like, back through Wyoming and back to Boston. I think that was a great eye-opening trip of, you know, like, why are we here? What's the purpose of life? And I think we kinda realized, like, oh, it's like, have fun with people you love and, like, enjoy life. So I think for me, a lot of what I try to do now has came from, like, those lessons, and you're constantly trying it's like a North Star, like, you're always trying to, like, redirect yourself to it, and sometimes you find yourself, like, steered away, but with that North Star in mind, like, you always kinda find your way back to, like, the mission. So I think everyone I would recommend for people just to, like, spend some time reflecting on what's important for you. I think nature, like, being out in nature, like, the national parks are a great way just to, like, really understand, like, how you fit into this greater kinda world and universe and life. But yeah, ultimately, everyone's gonna figure that out for themselves. I think, I was blessed at a young age to kinda, like, understand what I wanted to do roughly from, like, an entrepreneurial stance, and I think there's still people who maybe are like in a job and or just doing something that they're not really in love with, and that's fine. I think it's like just spend some time reflecting on like, well, what do you want to do? Like what would excite you? What would like light a fire in you that would like make everyday waking up exciting? Um and with that, there's going to be some hard work and sacrifices, but I think just yeah, like reflecting and talking to people too, like over a campfire. It's like, over casual long talks, like just like talk to people and like figure out
Mhm.
like what what's important in their life, what's important in yours. And I think a lot of it comes back to like the topics of like love and people. Like I think that's like common themes I see as like why I'm here, I guess. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit, I guess, as we wrap up, what are the people that you look for when you want them to join REAFCO? What do you like? What is a trait, quality, something that you're looking for in them? Because a lot of people, like, if you tell people, "Hey, you can make money here," there's a lot of people that will come. That doesn't mean that they're a good fit for you as well.
Yeah, I think the one of the biggest traits is growth-oriented people, like someone who wants to get better and is willing to put in those short-term sacrifices and willing to have the door slammed in their face, hundreds of times, if not thousands of times, because they know what's at the end of the tunnel. Um, so I think growth-oriented is a key trait. I think a lot of the common denominators at Reefco too is an entrepreneurial itch. So what I mean by that is a lot of us as kids, maybe we had landscaping businesses or shoveled snow for, $20 or lemonade stands, or maybe we made bracelets, or maybe we did nails and hair on the side. Like all those little entrepreneurial itches, I think are a complete common denominator at Reefco. And I think as you get older, a lot of them kind of get like stamped out and like or stomped out from just like the kind of the push
The
to get a
system.
corporate job. Yeah, the system, exactly. So I think when people reflect a lot, like, oh, like, yeah, I was entrepreneur. Like I did like used to go around my neighborhood with a lawnmower or a shovel and do X, Y, or Z. Or in high school, I, did personal training on the side. Like I think we tap into a lot of those folks who realize they are entrepreneurial, but maybe they didn't have um a entrepreneurial success in their past endeavor. I mean, a lot of us, we in Reefco, we've had like 5, 10 different business ideas, like plus. So I think a lot of what we found is that this business model works. And even if you don't want to do real estate forever, at least if you do it long enough, it's going to give you that financial base so that you can have the time freedom later to do another entrepreneurial endeavor, or to like just spend time with your family and not have to like show up for meetings that you don't want to show up for. So I think yeah, just growth-oriented mindset, entrepreneurial itch. Those are two of the biggest things I see.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think we'll end it off there. Mark, I really thank you for coming
Thanks,
on.
bud.
I really thank you for your life lessons and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, hearing I guess the story of Reefco from another perspective. And
Yep.
we'll link the Reefco website, how
Abs
you're able to join and the mission you guys kind of have.
Absolutely. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.